All right, everyone. Welcome to this daily Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for Wednesday, August 1st, 2018. All right, so today the moon is in Pisces, so the theme of the day likely about bringing in receptivity into our life, essentially finding spiritual peace, and perhaps diving into the unconscious or the spiritual dimensions of things. So along with this, going into tomorrow, Mars is going to be squaring up to Uranus, so there could be a bit of tension collectively, maybe some frustrations, feeling a bit bottlenecked, restricted perhaps, wanting to break free. So really good to be observant of this and work with this in healthy ways, right? How can we develop constructive freedom and maybe healthy ways of releasing this energy if you are feeling it. So let's look at this along with some of the minor lunar aspects here in more detail when we return. All right, so here's the sky for this Wednesday. Again, we are using what's called true sidereal astrology. The signs are different from mainstream astrology. So if you are new, check out the link down below for more information. All right, so the moon has shifted into Pisces since the later part of yesterday. We are, of course, still coming off of that lunar eclipse from last Friday. So we are in what's called the disseminating phase of the lunar cycle, which means essentially a time of implementing, or a good time of implementing, any insights that we've gained since the eclipse. So good to be moving that energy forward and seeing how we can disperse that information into our daily lives and start to implement and cultivate some of that. So with Pisces, the theme today likely about finding spiritual peace, spiritual well-being. It's essentially what the constellation helps us develop. It's still the early part of the constellation, so maybe just getting used to this energy in a monthly sense. And so cultivating a bit of intuition, maybe our creative side or imaginative side, cultivating some of our dreams and ideals, right? Really good to be receptive to those and just become more clear in terms of what are our dreams and ideals. And just all in all, developing a bit more receptivity, right? Living presently, surrendering what's outside of our control, these types of things essentially to, again, find that inner peace. So that's the theme more than likely. Really good to develop these spiritual things, but just noticing the theme with that likely here today. So let's go ahead and take a look at the aspects that we have, because we do have an important one. Mars is going to be squaring up to Uranus, which we've likely been feeling a bit earlier in the week, but certainly increasing as we go through the day today. It is going to go exact here, right on the cusp between today and tomorrow. So this is that collective tension. More than likely, Mars is the side of ourself that wants things now, doesn't like to be held back. And then Uranus is the side of ourself that wants to break free and make some changes so we can have more of that freedom in our life. So when there's a square, there's a bit of that challenging energy between the two, which can feel like a bit of that bottlenecking, wanting to break free, maybe frustration, tension, things like this, maybe wanting to act impulsively. So good to be observant of this, as is the case with all squares. Good to bring that extra moment attention to the self, especially with Pisces. Again, this helps us connect to the present moment, maybe even become aware of our unconscious selves, right, or unconscious patterns. But finding healthy releases of this, if you're feeling it. Again, it's a collective energy, and your personal chart will determine more so in terms of how you're working with this. But if you are feeling that, really good to find healthy ways of getting that energy out. It could be maybe through working out as an example, again, in a kind of observance way, because this can be a bit of that, again, kind of erratic energy. So we just want to be careful, so maybe writing things down, especially physical activities can be good with Mars in terms of that release. So finding whatever's healthy for you in that department and taking the slow and steady steps towards cultivating essentially what is our true self, wanting a bit of freedom and change more than likely. So good to be observant of that. If there are any changes that you feel like you do want to implement in your life, but it may require maybe facing some fears or making some changes that are uncomfortable, good to do that with intention, with that constructive approach, and the long-term approach as well, because again, Uranus and Mars both want things now, but the square is the energy more like of Saturn, which is that of things needing to perhaps take time and needing a bit of integration. So approaching it slowly, steadily, but listening to that true self, because there is something coming across here collectively, but individually for each of us, that we can perhaps create some changes with in our life or with ourselves, internally or externally, fundamentally internally, that does allow for greater freedom and change in how we can develop that constructively and with intention and conscious awareness. So a very important aspect, we will likely notice as we get into the later part of the week, some sort of shift or transition with this, in terms of this development of both freedom and cultivating what we want in that sense. All right, so that's the most important thing today. Along with that moon in Pisces, we do have some minor lunar aspects. The moon is going to go over Chiron, so there could be, on a very minor note, maybe some healing or a new chapter with healing, maybe feeling a bit refreshed or rejuvenated in that sense, maybe emotionally. The moon is actually going to be in good harmony to Mars, so we do have a bit of support there on a very minor level where maybe our emotions are linking up quite well with that drive and intention, which could lead to maybe a bit of confidence, motivation, things of that nature. The moon is going to be squaring up to Saturn, so there is a bit of this detachment, perhaps emotionally, again on a minor note. So good to be intentful with that. Take things slowly, steadily again. Really good for that. And anything we can take a responsibility with and set the intention to take responsibility with, and the long-term approach, really good with that square. All right, so that's the day in a nutshell. Mars squaring up to Uranus. Good to implement that change in constructive ways with intention. Also finding healthy ways of releasing that energy if you are feeling it. And the moon in Pisces, right? This important theme right now of diving into our unconscious, into the spiritual dimensions in order to essentially accept what is in the present moment, listen to our intuition, and as a result, find that peace and tranquility. All right, so have a fantastic day, everyone. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow for the daily forecast.